What's a better business to start? A car flipping business or a car detailing business? As someone who's been making a full-time living doing both, I have strong opinions on what could be better. So I'm going to break down the pros and cons of each one so you can make an informed decision of what could be better for you. Plus, at the end of the video, I'll also give you a strategy I've used to make over $10,000 a month in the business. Let's get right to it. What's up? My name is Jamal from Flipping University. I help busy employees build a full-time business flipping cars without having to fix anything. And let's get right into the pros of starting a car detailing business. And I would say really probably one of the top pros and the top good things of having a car detailing business is that you really don't need much of any money to get started with anything. And really even for the tools that you need to get started is not much. You can go very far just having a couple of detailing products, potentially even spending like $100 to even $50 potentially just to get things going. And even just with that small amount of money, you can still get some really good results long term. The second one is that you don't need a lot of mechanical knowledge. And that's the big thing with this one is a lot of people that like cars, they want to be in the car industry and make a business doing something with cars, but they don't have a lot of knowledge with cars in terms of how to fix things or even what parts do and different things like that. And when it comes to car detailing, you really don't have to. You're mainly just cleaning things. I mean, you don't have to fix a single thing. So if that's something that you're a little afraid of, then this could be good for you as well. Next thing is that there's just a very low difficulty level as well. I mean, for the most part, you're just cleaning things like most people know how to clean, and it's not something that, you know, is that complicated of a task. Yes, of course, there's levels to it. There's levels of how good you could clean and how good you can even do things like detailing a car per se, even on like buffing the paint on the exterior, different things like that as well. But realistically, it all comes down to just making the car look better through different cleaning methods. And even if you didn't want to get into things like buffing the paint, especially if you're just doing like interior detailing and then just doing like a simple car wash, you could still get pretty far just with doing those things alone. And again, it's not hard things to do. And then as another pro, it kind of stems from the last one, which also just means that because it's like a pretty easy skill to do, it's also pretty easy to hire out other people to do as well. So let's say when you're scaling your business, if you're just starting up as yourself and you want to get into doing more work and you have more clients working with you that you're going to be doing more cars with, it's not too hard to just potentially hire another person and kind of like outsource the same work that you're doing, just because it's not that hard of a job to do either. And on that point, you generally don't have to pay them that much as well, just because again, it's not like it's that hard of a task, rather than something like if you were paying someone to be a mechanic for you, generally speaking, they're going to have to be paid a little bit more. The next pro is that it's very easy to actually start up a whole business in your name, like a full legit business that's in your name with your own business name and everything like that. You really don't need much. Like again, you could basically just have your own products. Not like you need to set up like an office or a lot or something like that. I mean, there's people that have made thousands of dollars just with a work van. I mean, you could buy some really cheap work van for like $1,000, $2,000 and then just kind of work out of that with pretty cheap products as well. Of course, over time, it'd be good to stem from that and get better tools and more things as well, just to kind of keep scaling up. But in the beginning, making this into a full-time business, it's not really going to require much from you in terms of money or in terms of like paperwork and all that, just to get things going. And the last one would be that there's really just little to no risk involved in the business itself. Of course, let's say with something like car flipping, we're going to get into that in a second, but there's just more risk, you know, potentially even losing money off of a car flip. With car detailing, I mean, you're mainly just risking your time that you might have to invest into, you know, building out your clientele and doing different jobs for people. But it's not like there's a way that you can really lose money for the most part. So you're gonna be generally getting paid for the work that you're doing as well. But now that we have most of the pros for car detailing, now we're just gonna get into the cons. And to kind of start off with the cons, it kind of just goes from that last point of the pros, where yes, there's no risk involved for losing money, but at the same time, you're basically getting paid for the time that you're putting into the business. So this is kind of similar to a job in a way. Generally speaking, yes, you're going to charge a certain amount to do a certain job for that client or for that car, but for the most part, it's not like your income can really pop up to a different point. That's not related to the amount of time that you're going to be putting in to get that car clean. The other con for a car detailing business is that it's just something that's not always going to be in demand, because realistically, car detailing, getting a car cleaned is not like a necessity. It's more of like a luxury that people will pay for if they don't have the time to do it themselves, or if they have the money for just someone else to do it. But it's not like someone is going to be hard pressed where they're like, oh my goodness, I need to get this car clean right now. If times aren't going too well, then generally speaking, it might be a little bit harder to get more clientele as well. The next con for a car detailing business would be that it's just a little bit harder to build clientele, and it takes time to really get the business going. That's really going to be the toughest part of the job when you're first starting up with things, just trying to get your network built and trying to find people that you can work with and trying to market yourself to be able to get business going. And generally speaking, you're also going to have to kind of like shortchange yourself a little bit to give people like cheaper rates and stuff like that so that they could get work done from you rather than other people that's already out there. But just doing all of this does take a decent amount of time as well. You can't just do this in like 1 month. It'll take a little bit to get going. The next con kind of just goes from a little bit of what I mentioned with the last one also, and it's just that you can't really charge like premium or high prices until you start really building up a big name for yourself in the business. And primarily just because of that fact, I mean, there's not much of a way that you can just start up and people are just going to be knowing you unless you have some type of credibility in another way. But just to get things going, you're going to have to kind of like put out a better deal than other people around the area. And of course, there's going to be a lot of competition in most areas as well of other people that's doing the same type of thing of mobile detailing or like a detailing shop in general. So of course, with this point as well, it's going to take a little bit of time. I would say really at least like a year to two where you're really grinding with the business before you can start potentially raising up your prices and charging more premium rates to be able to get more money off of your time as well. And the next con is that, I mean, some people are just nasty. I mean, I'm not even going to drag this on too long, but I mean, there's cars that I've detailed in the past where it's just like, it's really filthy, you know, like you'd be surprised with how dirty people keep their cars. And if that's your daily job where you're cleaning up cars like that, it could get to be a little bit much. I wouldn't say this is as huge of a con as some of the other ones. I mean, if you're not too opposed to like just cleaning in general and you're not grossed out by things, it's not that big of a deal. But I did just think I would put this in there as well. And the last one as the con for just a car detailing business is that generally speaking, you're not going to be able to get as much pay for your time. If you're really trying to like think about how much pay you're getting like per hour and stuff like that, it's not going to really compare that well to other alternatives out there. Yes, I mean, you could probably get more than what potentially your day job might be able to give you if it's like $20 per hour or so. But if you're comparing it to other like actual business ventures where, you know, your profit can really scale up over time and different things like that, it's not going to be one of the highest profit type of things that you can go into. Okay, so now for the pros of having a car flipping business. And one of the first pros for this goes into the last con of the last one, which is just that you can make a pretty high amount of money for your time. I mean, there's a lot of flips that I've done in the past where even without doing a crazy amount of work with the car, I could literally just be doing a detail as well with the car. But instead, I could be making, let's say, $200 an hour or above, or $300 an hour, or even $400 or so. And of course, who doesn't like to get paid more for the amount of time that they're going to be putting into the job? The next pro for car flipping is that it's just always going to be in demand. People are always going to need cars, especially for like cheaper cars, even if it's not really expensive stuff where they're buying toys that are like $20,000 and above. If it's a car that's like $5,000 or possibly even like $10,000 and below, regardless of the type of market that's out there or what's happening with the economy, people are still going to need their cars, which means that you're always going to still be in business. And as long as you're doing business the right way, you're still going to be good. The other pro for car flipping is that it's kind of like the cool thing of the business really, where you're kind of just getting paid to try out cars. So if you are someone that likes cars and, you know, maybe wanted to try out like a specific car or a sports car or a truck, a Jeep, a luxury car, whatever, you know, you're getting a chance to basically try out that car, test drive it, do what you want with it, and then sell it for profit basically after all that, which is just a pretty cool concept in itself. Now, the next pro for car flipping is that just the fact that some cars really need like little to no work at all. Like, as I mentioned before, there's certain cars where you could buy and potentially only have to put like literally like an hour in. And there's plenty of cars that I've bought like this. Some cars that like they literally don't even need to have any work in. You could just about buy them and then sell them right after. Most cars aren't like that, so don't always expect that, but some cars are. which is very different from something like car detailing. It's not like car detailing. You can show up to a client's house and just be like, hey, I'm here, give me money. Like, that's not gonna happen. They're gonna want to expect some type of exchange for the work that you put in. The last pro for starting a car flipping business is that you can just start making money really quickly. It's not like it's like car detailing where you need to build up a connection base and different things like that. Of course, that can help for in the future if you want to get into things like sourcing cars from different avenues, but it's not like it's reliant on that. If you have ways that you can potentially get a good deal for a car, you could be any average person out there, any person in the community, post up a car on Facebook or something like that and make really good profit off of it. And now let's go into the cons of car flipping. One of the cons is just that realistically you do need more money to get started into the business. It's not like car detailing where you could just start with like 50 bucks or so. As nice as it would be to buy a car with like $50 or $100, probably not gonna happen. The car is probably just gonna be like a shell, and that's about it. I would say generally speaking, the cheapest or the lowest you might need to get into car flipping would probably be at least like $500. And yes, I have purchased cars for that cheap before. And of course, it ranges from there. You can go up more and invest more. But that's just how the business is set up. You know, you can make more and you can invest more. And I wouldn't say the amount that you can make is directly tied to the amount that you can invest, but you do have to just invest more in general than something like a car detailing business. The next con for having a car flipping business is that you do at least need some type of like beginner knowledge of cars. You don't need to know exactly how to like fix everything, or you don't need to be like Chris Fix or something where you just fixing every single thing with the car, but you do need to at least know like what things do with the car, and you can't be afraid to get a little dirty, like checking out the car and stuff like that, mainly because you need to at least know what you're buying. Like if you don't know anything about cars at all and you don't know what parts do and what could potentially be wrong when you're buying the car, it could be a big disaster in the future, which could potentially end up losing you money in the future as well. The next con with having a car flipping business is that it's just a harder skill to master. There's just more things that you need to do in the business in terms of like just sourcing the car, just that by itself, just buying the right cars for the right price and bidding on cars and stuff like that. That's a whole skill in itself. You might need to learn potentially about car detailing in itself, which is a whole skill potentially inside of car flipping. You might need to know different things to be able to get the car into good condition and different ways to be able to market it right. Like all that stuff has a lot of different skill sets to it. And yes, you will be well compensated if you're doing the skills right and you're focusing on the right things. But yes, it's just a harder thing to master. The next con for having a car flipping business goes into somewhat of what I was saying was the pros of car detailing, where with this, it's just the high risk that it has as well. And again, like with this, if you're doing things wrong, you do have the potential of losing money. Now, you know, if you potentially invest $2,000 or $3,000 into a car and you do it the wrong way, or you invest into the wrong car, you buy it for the wrong price, all that stuff, you could potentially lose money, which is not something that could be done really with car detailing. Like you'd have to make some really big mistakes to lose money in that area. So that is just something to note here. And the last con for starting a car flipping business is that if you are going to be starting it in your own name and you're doing it more than just like a quick side hustle where you're flipping cars on the side, generally speaking, you're going to need to start your own dealership, which does take a pretty good amount of money, even past just buying the cars itself, but getting your own lot and getting insurance for the dealership and getting a bond for the dealership, all that stuff, it takes a decent amount of money to actually invest into all that, as well as time to get all that started. And I will note a quick thing of how you can kind of get past that and do things a lot cheaper to still be able to get into different car auctions and stuff in a second, but that is something I did want to note here. But now I also just wanted to give you a quick suggestion, even before we get into some of the things that you can do to be able to build up, let's say, a $10,000 per month business as well. So my suggestion realistically between the two of them, between car detailing and car flipping, is really starting with car detailing, let's say in the beginning if you don't really have a lot of money, and especially if you don't know about cars and stuff. And then after you build up your money, let's say to at least have around $500 to $1,000 saved, and you're doing some work already with car detailing, then you can transition to car flipping, where then boom, you could have more capital to play around with, and you'll just be getting paid more for your time that you're going to be putting in. And then when you want to go into doing it full time, but let's say if you don't have enough money to start your own dealership just yet, you could actually be a dealer rep, where you can get into dealer auctions and different things like that, and you won't need nearly as much money just to get things started. I did actually put together a training explaining exactly how you're able to do that and how I do that. You can go to the link in the description below if you want to see that. And as the last thing of the easiest way to be able to build up a $10,000 per month business, first of all, of course, yes, would be on the car flipping side, but along with that, I would also say trying to go for cars that can sell around 3.5 to 5K would really be a good sweet spot to be able to stick to, just because, I mean, you could potentially try to aim to get around $1,500 to $2,000 profit realistically. And these are cars that you can still sell very quickly, like just like the cheaper cars where you could potentially sell them in a couple days to a week after listing them up for sale. It's the same thing with these cars. And then of course, I mean, if you could just get, let's say 5 cars or 5 of those flips in a month, where let's say if you're getting around $2,000 profit off of each, it's very doable, especially if you're getting cars that don't need a crazy amount of work to get them ready for sale. And if you want to see how I was able to start up with $1,000 and how I'm building up to $100,000 in my flipping series, you can click into the video there, and make sure you see the training if you want to get into the auction access. And that's about everything. Till next time, peace.